Okay, and welcome to session 11 of our Heart of Darkness Star Wars game. In the last session, our heroes concocted a plan to sneak aboard the Imperial Star Destroyer Vigilance with the aim of stealing a Lambda-class shuttle to replace their own ship that has been impounded by the Imperial Customs Bureau. During the course of this, Yaatu was unfortunately, due to various hijinks, taken prisoner by the Empire and was ferried up on a prison shuttle to a detention block on board the Imperial Star Destroyer. Luckily, Gribbly, through one of her many rebel contacts, the Twi'lek known as Lacos, was able to get some forged documents for herself and Crood. With these forged documents, identifying them as junior officers, they plan to sneak aboard the Imperial Star Destroyer, or rather bluff their way on board, hopefully locate Yaatu, and then enact their original plan to steal a shuttle and be about their business. So before we go any further, I'm going to ask each of the players to introduce themselves and say a little bit about their character. So first of all, we'll start with Jason.
Hello, my name is Jason, and I am playing the infamous pilot Rodian Crood Bosmore, who quite valiantly tried to hold off some guards and also managed to throw up on a senior officer, which was rather satisfying. However, he then had to pretty much fall off a really high pier, hide out for a bit, and now he's met back up with Gribbly thanks to one of her contacts, as John mentioned. And now we're going to infiltrate this prison and hopefully free Yaatu.
Okay, thank you very much. And next we'll move on to Miss Cowled.
Hi, I'm Becky. I'm playing Ms. Cowled, and she is a master manipulator. You know, it's nice to get that side of my personality out occasionally, in a way that, you know, people can appreciate for the quality of the manipulation instead of how it's normally brought out, which is to get exactly what I want. Babe, this coffee does not have milk in.
And last but by no means least, the jailbird himself, Yaatu Deng.
Right, so I'm Johannes. I'm playing Yaatu Deng. He's a Maryland 2-bit gangster looking to make it big and hopefully not die trying. Yeah, Yaatu, as mentioned before, is currently a prisoner, which sort of excites him a bit because he's real big into tattoos, being a Maryland, and he's really hoping for some rad Imperial prison tattoos because he's shallow like that and he thinks it makes him cool. And usually it does, for some unfathomable reason. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Okay, splendid. So before we start, I'm just going to ask Crood and Gribbly, you've got these forged junior officer sort of data cylinders that Lacos, your Twi'lek contact, was able to get for you. What is your plan for actually getting on board the Star Destroyer?
That's quite simple, you see, because we got documents for being in the Customs Bureau.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're going to go in as junior officers for the Customs Bureau to interview Yaatu, because they're currently recruiting, as I understand it. So we're kind of like the sort of outreach program, as it were, because some races are easier to police if they're, you know, if you do it with locals.
Okay, splendid. So to see how well you do with that initial plan, I'm going to ask one of you, it's down to you two, which one of you want to make this roll. I'm going to ask one of you to make me a guile roll.
I think I should probably take that one.
Yeah, I've only got one in it.
Okay, it is difficulty 3. Okay, when you head up to the Star Destroyer, sort of secreting yourself aboard one of the many shuttles that seem to be running backwards and forwards between the Star Destroyer Vigilance and the planet. In fact, Gribbly, there's quite a lot of shuttles running between the Star Destroyer and the planet. Far more than you'd expect for like a regular supply run or a sort of refueling stop. It's quite clear that something's going on, although without sort of pushing into it a little bit further, you wouldn't have any idea what the specifics are.
Okay. All right. So Gribbly, who's going to be doing the interviewing, or do we both bounce off questions?
Crood. We're not going to interview him. We're going to rescue him.
Well, yes, but surely you've thought of the fact that if we're in a room, a control room, there's going to be cameras, or at least some kind of recording device.
Why would they pull up a recording of that?
It's not. Look, we're going to be put... You've never been in prison or anything, have you?
Well, of course not.
Okay, look, they're not just going to put us in any room we want. They're going to put us in some kind of room, probably used for interrogation or interviewing, pre-interrogation. There's always some kind of recording equipment in there. They document everything. This is the Empire. They keep, I don't know, archives of what they keep in the dining room. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we'll just pull rank. Oh, I suppose we're junior officers. But, I mean, why would anyone look at an interview for a job application? I mean, come on. You mean we're actually going to have to do the interview? Yaatu isn't going to know what's going on.
I'm just saying we should probably take more precautions this time.
What? When have we ever not?
Oh, dear me.
Okay, guys, so you head up to the Star Destroyer Vigilance. You notice there is quite, unsurprisingly, given that it's a Star Destroyer, there is quite a large military presence on board this vessel. You can see multiple squads of stormtroopers stationed down the corridor, and that's just like the entrance corridor that you guys are looking down. Now, speaking of which, I'm going to ask which sort of entranceway are you guys planning on taking on board the vessel? I'll just bring up a picture of the Star Destroyer so you can have a look at that.
Cool.
Okay, now hopefully you can see that there are 3 red dotted lines on that diagram. Those represent the entrances onto the Star Destroyer Vigilance. Now, the 2 sort of side doors effectively lead into the hangars and the sort of like the military areas. So they're quite heavily defended, but they do have the advantage of they get you into the rest of the ship a little bit quicker. Whereas the sort of front entrance, if you will, leads to a more sort of general the sort of general quarters, etc. So it's not quite as highly guarded, but because there's more general quarters and there are specific military sectors, it would take you longer to travel through that into the rest of the vessel. It's entirely down to you guys which approach you take to going on board the ship.
As a pilot, John, would I be able to make a sort of educated guess as to better entrance? Because I'm thinking more, if we had to evade somehow, would we be able to nip and hide depending on what kind of interior design it is?
Yeah, I mean, basically you think it would be easy to hide if you went in via the front entrance through the general quarters, since that's effectively just a maze of like recreation rooms, equipment lockers, quarters, officers' quarters, etc., that potentially all could serve as hiding places, whereas the 2 sort of military sectors you could get into, they're far more likely to have like a lot of guards on active duty rather than sort of like lounging around in their skivvies.
It's not just that. Crood, but this is a Navy vessel and we're representing customs officers, so we should enter the ship more formally.
That is true, yes. Okay, so general quarters it is. Obviously keep up the act, but there'll be plenty of places to hide should that be necessary.
I don't know why you don't have faith in this plan.
Because the last plan seemed pretty good, and we really fucked up.
Well, that was pretty much Yaatu just shooting off a guard's gun. I mean, come on. I'm sorry my plan didn't cover the fact that Yaatu apparently gets hormonal urges.
Look, I'm not blaming you, Gribbly. Your plans are great. You do have a knack for talking to people, but it's well, Yaatu can be a tricky fellow.
As you're saying this, you're obviously approaching the front entrance to head to the general quarters, as discussed. You can see that, unlike the sort of military entrances, which you had a quick look at to assess them, Crood, whereas they had sort of like stormtroopers and ICB agents stationed at them, checking with a tooth comb everything that was going on board. There's just a bored-looking guy in a grey suit holding a data pad here. As you walk up, he just takes an almost disinterested look up from his data pad at you and says, "Papers."
Hand over the papers.
Yep.
And I'm going to ask a question as well. We're looking for a prisoner that was brought on board, Yaatu Deng. Could you tell us where it's being held?
Now, Yaatu, just to check, were they actually aware of your real name when you went on board? Because I believe you used a nom de plume when you were in the ICB thing.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think we used some fake credentials at the start, but as a part of the whole shenanigans of the compel, where I shot at the guys, I was yelling "Yaatu Deng's in town, bitches" or something to that effect. I'm not...
You were pretty much screaming your name and like firing your gun into the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So the functionary looks at you, Gribbly, and says, what's your business with the prisoner?
And I show him the job application I filled in.
We are looking to interview him. It's part of a scheme in order to get unruly prisoners working again, and also, of course, freeing up any prison quarters.
Okay, since you guys have already passed the guile, since you guys have already passed the guile roll, he buys into that. He looks at his data pad and says, "Has this prisoner of yours got a name?" And he passes you data sticks back.
Yes, we just told you.
Well, which is it, Dong or Deng?
Deng.
Yeah, I think it was Deng. Yes, his language is a bit confusing to us.
Right. Okay. Let me just have a look through. Yes, here we go. Deng Mirilanen. Yes, he's currently being interrogated in detention block C18.
Is that on the aft or the port side?
Well, aft, of course.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm afraid you won't be allowed in there at the moment. He's in the process of interrogation, and you'll have to wait until the technicians have finished with him.
Yeah, yes, of course, we understand that. Is there anywhere we can wait, possibly?
Yes, if you hold on a second, I'll get you an escort to take you further into the ship. You see him, he turns around and then says, "Sergeant, I need an escort for 2 agents, junior officers, Officer Talri and Officer Shodan, junior officers. They're part of the ICB's native recruitment program, here to see one of our more unruly prisoners, the Mirilanen they brought in the other day." As a number of stormtroopers move towards you, and you can identify the one in the lead by his orange shoulder marking as the sergeant. You hear a sort of muffled laugh from under the hood and the helmet that he's wearing, and the stormtrooper sergeant says, "Oh yeah, the Miralan, and I'm not entirely sure how much use he'll be after he's finished with interrogation. What do you need me for?" "I need someone to escort these two officers to the detention block, if you wouldn't mind, Sergeant." At which point the stormtrooper says, "Yes, fine. You two, follow me," and he gestures at you.
Okay.
We do, sir.
Yep.
Okay, he leads you through the ship, through this bewildering maze of rooms, quarters, rec rooms, cantinas, etc., through some slightly more higher security areas, and you seem to be heading towards the very back section of the ship until you eventually reach what appears to be a large detention block. Now, as you've been walking through this vessel, you can see that despite the fact that it just seems to be sat here sort of with stuff being ferried up and down to it from the planet, the whole of the Star Destroyer seems to be on very high alert. You see a lot of stormtrooper squadrons sort of marching up and down corridors, guarding rooms. You get asked a couple of times for your papers, at which point the sergeant who's leading you sort of handles all of that, but they seem to be checking everyone with a fine tooth comb. So again, it's clear that more than a normal supply run is going on here. As you continue making your way towards the back of the ship, eventually you arrive at one of the detention blocks, and I'll put up a picture of that for you.
Got it.
Okay, splendid. It's unfortunately the only problem with having so many different mapping areas up on the screen. It takes a while to flick through them all, so I do apologise for that. But hopefully you can all see that now. That is the layout of a standard Imperial style detention block.
Okay. So whereabouts did we get escorted to exactly, or are we not quite sure?
Okay, you guys are essentially escorted down one of the central corridors towards the central walkway. I'll just draw that on the map for you.
Okay, cool. So I would be, as we're being escorted, Crood would be looking around a lot for any kind of vantage points, anywhere where we can maybe smuggle Yaatu away, or even just hide.
Okay, well, as you're walking in, each of those small rectangles you can see on there is an individual detention cell. So that should give you some idea of how large this place is. As you're walking past them, they all have sort of effectively view slits in the doors. You can see a number of different species. There's some Twi'leks in there. There's some humans, some Nortolans, a number of aliens. You're not even sure what they are. You don't see any Rhodians, however, though, Crood, which I suppose is a good thing given where you are at the moment. However, as you walk past, you can see there are multiple squads of stormtroopers stationed at, one stationed at each intersection as you head past. Each intersection on the map seems to have a team of 12 stormtroopers stood at it, all at attention, all are armed. They're obviously serving as the prison guards in this capacity.
Okay, so C18, which one's that?
Okay, this entire sector is C18. So again, that should give you some idea of how many prisoners they've got on board, because this is just like one sector.
Do I see as well where the turbo lifts go?
Yeah, the turbo lifts you would expect go both up and down to other detention blocks. They appear to effectively be stacked on top of each other.
Where did we come in from? Was that from a turbo lift?
No, you walked down a corridor from the rest of the ship into this area, following the sort of line of the red arrow.
Ah, right, yeah, okay. So when we get to that guard station, is there somebody sort of at a desk or something we can talk to?
Indeed there is. As you get there, you can see there are a number of more sort of standard Imperial officials, again wearing these sort of grey uniforms of the Empire. They're more your sort of low-level functionaries than your highly trained stormtroopers. You can see 4 of them in this office, each of them sat behind a desk. They have sort of hologrammatic displays in front of them, and they're sort of busy moving data around on this sort of 3D hologrammatic displays in front of them. They barely sort of give you a look, since you're being escorted by stormtroopers, probably assuming you're either like visiting dignitaries or your future prisoners potentially.
We're here for your prisoner Deng, Yaatu Deng. Yaatu or Yaatu?
As you say
Yaatu.
this, there is a loud scream echoes down one of the corridors. One of the Imperial functionaries looks up at you, and you can see he has one of those sort of wrap-around cybernetic brain enhancements sort of wrapped around the back of his head. As he looks up, he moves some hologrammatic data on the display in front of him, and then in a sort of monotone voice says, "Ah yes, Yaatu Denga, a most unruly prisoner. I believe that noise is him now being questioned."
That's less than ideal. We've just had an application for him, which we received yesterday, and if this application is correct, his father served in the army. So perhaps we should show him a little bit more respect. We're possibly going to recruit him. Has he been charged with anything yet? And how serious is it?
Well, he's been charged with attempted assault and theft from an official ICB offices and assault on ICB employees, not to mention the potential damage and assault charges that he gained during his arrest. These are extremely serious charges indeed. Any one of these would be more than enough to get him removed from consideration for inclusion in any imperially sponsored program.
Yes, but are any of those charges actually true? I mean, can we use this guy?
Of course, they're all true. I can produce the video evidence if you wish, and as he says that he fiddles around with this sort of like floating hologrammatic display in front of him, and you see the scene of Yaatu when he was originally brought on board, effectively a replay from the security cams. So Yaatu, would you like to describe the ways in which you attempted to resist arrest whilst you were originally being brought on board?
I think we staged like an escaped attempt with my gambler friend that I met in the chain gang. I think he had an idea for a distraction he could do, and I tried to get myself free from the chains, and maybe I succeeded. And I think I I grabbed one of the stormtroopers and tried to like use him as a like a hostage, but I didn't have a gun, so that didn't turn out so well.
Indeed, and that's what you guys see on this replay. You see Yaatu sort of manacled at the end of this line behind what appears to be a dog of some kind. They appear to be sort of like whispering between each other, and then Yaatu manages to get free of his restraints, grabs this stormtrooper, attempting to use him as a hostage or some sort of bargaining chip. However, lacking any weapon, he's quickly subdued by the other stormtroopers that are around, is knocked unconscious, and the video footage ends with him being dragged away unconscious, with two stormtroopers like carrying him under his arms.
Remarkable resourcefulness. Do you see how he broke the restraints? He recruited a dog to his cause. That's incredible. But what about evidence before he was actually arrested? I mean, was he actually guilty?
Well, I believe that I can pull up the internal security footage from the original ICB outlet where the fray took place. So if you'll give me a few moments, it'll just take me a while to locate.
To be honest, no. I mean, the evidence obviously isn't that relevant. Otherwise, it would be already attached to the case. No, that's no concern. So I think really this isn't really a concern. I mean, this here, what we've seen is a demonstration of his capabilities, and those have a value. What is done is striking a stormtrooper. I mean, he was under arrest. That's fine. We don't care about that. No, I think this man could be useful to us. I think we have just the suicide mission for somebody like that.
And we do have certain targets to reach, you understand.
And certain jobs that we wouldn't want a human to have to do.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask you to make another guile roll, Gribbly. It's only a difficulty 2 this time.
Okay. Can I use a fate point to maybe redo it?
Do you have an aspect that's applicable here?
Because of my high bond status, I am used to acting without consequence. So, yeah. So, ooh, hang on. I just assume that this kind of sort of mentality of dismissing little problems like this are of no concern to anyone, and that, you know, what's really important is the value of something. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd say you could certainly spend a fate point to do that. You wouldn't need to re-roll it though, because the difficulty is only 2. You could just add a +2 to it, and that would be enough to succeed.
Okay, cool. I'll do that.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So you mentioned this suicide mission and obviously jobs that you wouldn't want humans to have to do. The functionary, this sort of cybernetically enhanced desk clerk, effectively leans forward and says, what sort of jobs are we talking about?
Well, part of the Customs Bureau's job is to investigate, you know, ships and search them. And some ships are quite, well, dirty, both in what they transport and, of course, some parts of a ship. You know, if you're investigating some of these smugglers, they don't maintain things properly. You've got radiation leaks all over the place. And, well, that's where my division comes in.
The functionary looks as though he's about to respond, when his attempt is broken up by the sounds of loud shouting from sort of back down the corridor you guys have just come from. And as you glance back, you see what appears to be a squadron of stormtroopers, and they're pretty much manhandling a an elderly gentleman who's sort of struggling feebly. He's wearing extremely fine clothes, looks extremely sort of well-to-do, although he's got a couple of like cuts and bruises on him, and a couple of stormtroopers are manhandling him down the corridor towards the administrators. As they're dragging him closer, you hear this old man say, "What? This is outrageous! The Emperor himself shall hear of my treatment." At which one of the stormtroopers says, Yes, whatever. Who do you think ordered you incarcerated here? Move along." And they keep pushing him towards the administrators. As they draw level with you guys, one of the other administrators looks up and says, "And what do we have here, officer?" "This is a Tobor Muskul, new prisoner." "Yes, take him along to cell 59. That should hold him for now." And this old man's dragged off towards one of the cells, still protesting and complaining about his treatment all the way.
I give Gribbly a look as though to say he could be useful.
Yeah, Gribbly's focused on the fact that the stormtrooper there has said that, you know, it was the Emperor that ordered his arrest. So Gribbly's only thinking about the presence of the Emperor on this ship and how she can arrange for the rebels to destroy this ship. And she's currently plotting and planning and doesn't even acknowledge Crood looking at her.
I look back to the stormtrooper and say, "So do you know how long this torture is going to be on Mr. Deng?"
"We don't perform torture, sir. This is an interrogation of a suspected rebel spy."
Oh, right, I see.
Not a rebel. There's no evidence to support that. What we have got is evidence that his family is Imperial and has served. Would you want your child to be treated like this? No, none of us would. So can we just cut that short now and get him back to, so that we can talk to him properly?
If one of my children had committed assault on a loyal member of the Empire, I would expect them to reap the full justice of the Imperial law.
He was already under arrest by that point. We're not interested in what happened after the arrest, only what happened before. After the arrest is just you getting your, you know, satisfaction. We all know that. It's part of the system. It's part of the game. We all accept it. We all do it. That's fine. But this one was one of ours.
"Well, I'm afraid before we can release any prisoners," says the stormtrooper, "I'll have to run it by Commander de Hacker. If you'll just give me a few moments."
Sure.
And he places a hand to the side of his helmet and then says, "Commander de Hacker, we have 2 junior officers here wanting to discuss the future of one of the prisoners, the Mirallanan who attempted to escape whilst being arrested." Yes, of course, sir. I understand. Yes, I'll ask them to wait here until you arrive, sir. At which point he lowers his hand from the side of his helmet and then says, "Commander de Hacker is going to head down here to talk to you personally. He'd like you to wait here until he arrives."
We can go to him. It's no bother.
"I'm just following orders, miss. I was told to ask you to wait here until he arrived."
Oh, that's fine.
About 10 minutes passes, during which you hear various sort of cries and screams from the other inmates, presumably some of which may be Yaatu. You're not entirely sure. Then one of the cell doors opens and you see a man in a white surgical gown walk out. He's snapping off a pair of latex gloves and taking off a face mask as he walks out. You can see there's blood splattered up the front of his otherwise pristine white surgical gown. He almost carelessly drops his gloves and mask into one of those sort of hazardous waste bins at the side of the corridor and then walks down towards the area where you're standing with the administrators and the stormtroopers. He walks over to you and says, well, says to the administrators, well, that's the interrogation complete with the prisoner. The Miralan, and you need to send some medical droids in to check him over as per normal procedures. The administrator looks at this surgeon and says, what information did you manage to get from him? And at this point, I'm going to ask Yaatu, can you please make me a focus roll? The difficulty is 3.
Okay. That was unexpected because focus is my worst stat.
Okay, this is basically to see whether you sort of like cracked under the torture and whether you told them anything. Do you, at the moment, you're 1 under.
Yeah.
Would require. Do you want to stick with that, or
No. I want to spend one of my fate points to get a +2, and the aspect I'm going to invoke is my trouble. These guys are my trouble. These guys are the haters, and haters are gonna hate, and I'm not gonna budge an inch. So I'm gonna grit my teeth and just tell them to fuck off. Fuck the police.
Okay, so since you've succeeded, I'm going to say that actually, since you managed to keep your wits about you, you've actually managed to like find out a bit of information about what's going on. So I'm going to say that if you can come up with one question that they might conceivably know the answer to, and obviously ask you a question, and I'll give you the answer truthfully, and that's the information you've managed to sort of find out from them whilst they were trying to interrogate you.
Okay. I'm just going to go over the situation so that I know the question that I would be interested in. So, calls 2. Is the planet like formally leaning one way or the other as far as the rebels and the Imperium are concerned?
Okay, technically, Cols 2 is an Imperial planet, although you know yourself there's rumours of various sort of rebel holdings, effectively.
Right. But Yaatu is going to, like, he doesn't believe that they would bring out a Star Destroyer and then not, like, bombard the shit out of the planets if they thought there were, like, a significant amount of rebels here. So I think Yaatu would be very interested in why, like, what is the Star Destroyer doing here? Like, what are these guys doing here?
Okay, you managed to discover that apparently the Emperor has been most displeased with the fact that the reigning noble dynasty, the Muzkul dynasty, have been unable to sort of winkle out this rebel presence on their planet. So decided to basically send someone in to make the point that if you don't look after your own backyard, the Empire's got to come in and like sort it out their way. However, you also managed to find out that the commander of the Star Destroyer, which is Moff Samantha Corolla, she specifically requested this mission for some reason. You're not entirely sure why.
Okay.
Okay, so do we jump back to where the administrators are talking to Gribbly and Crood? The administrator looks at you and says, well, since the interrogation has finished, you should be able to go and question the prisoner now. Of course, I will have to send a couple of guards with you. It's standard protocol, I'm sure you understand.
Okay, at this point, Crood takes a sharp look at Gribbly and says, I told you so!
Okay. Yes, we'll actually hold most of the discussions for if we can actually get him released. There's not a lot of point of wasting too much energy if he's not going to be released. So why don't we just, wait for your commander to come down, make the decision, and we'll go from there.
Okay, no problems.
And then I give Crood a little look.
I reluctantly nod. And I look back to any kind of escape route should we need it, because I have this strange feeling we're going to be legging it out of here.
Okay, so as you guys are waiting, after about 15 minutes, another squadron of stormtroopers arrives. They're led by a man, where you assume a man wearing quite a sort of high-tech looking suit of stormtrooper armor with a distinctive red top to the helmet and one of his shoulders. As he walks in, he heads straight up to the administrators and they say, "Oh yes, Commander Dahaka, those are the two officers who wish to speak to you." He marches straight up to you in a crisp military fashion, and then the slightly distorted and moderated voice of a stormtrooper speaking through the helmet says, "And what can I do for you?"
Responding, also having been through military training of my own, albeit perhaps for a different military, I do the whole, straight back and formal salute and everything else. And yes, we've had an application for one of your prisoners, and we're actually quite interested in him. He's from an Imperial family, so it looks like all the evidence on him is actually post-arrest, and some of his skills seem quite impressive. We'd very much like to take him and have a chat with him, because we have use for him in our department. So really, we're just looking for whether you can or will authorize release, or whether you want to keep him and do more things to him.
Well, if the prisoner, as you say, is from an Imperial family, then they'll no doubt be shipped to the Imperial Centre for trial, and I'm sure they have nothing to worry about.
Well, that's an awful lot of effort and expense to go to. He's right here now. We could use him. The evidence on him is really just, he made an escape attempt, and honestly, it was good. It showed remarkable capability and ingenuity. This is a man we could use. By the time we've put him through the system, he's going to hate the Imperium, hate the Empire. What's the point of doing that to a person when we could actually make use of them?
And what department did you say that you were working for again?
With the Customs Bureau, and my department deals with the stuff that they don't want the humans to do. Basically, we get sent into the radioactive leaking cores, and for ship searches and such. Any smuggler that's carrying cargo that's unpleasant, that's where my team steps in. And this is somebody, as I say, who we could really use. He's currently loyal, and I'd rather recruit him whilst he still is than get the leftovers. But only with your approval, of course.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask you to make another guile roll. This time it's going to be opposed against Captain Dahaka. So if you want to make your roll, Gribbly, and then I'll roll his against you.
I do actually have that thing, which means it can't be negative. That thingy.
Yeah, that's fine. So basically that roll would count as a 0 at the moment. So I'll roll for his.
I'm because just we do because I'm extremely educated from a wealthy family. That's my high concept. Can I blow fate on that to get a +2 and have a result of 2?
You certainly can.
Then that's what I do. So I get a bit legal and technical. Or it's rolled now. I don't think I can do the reroll. Oh well.
Now, if you want to spend a fate point to reroll, you can still do that.
Do I keep the +2 or do I lose that?
No, you'd lose the +2.
Can I use my last fate point to get a +2?
You can indeed. So since you've drawn with him rather than beating him, what I'm going to say is that he's suspicious. You've not won him over, but he's not so suspicious that he's immediately like, all right, boys, get the guns out, time to deal with them. So he turns his face towards you and then says in his modulated voice, I assume you have an officially stamped mission briefing and permission papers to take this prisoner out of here.
Crood. And I sort of gesture to Crood as if I'm expecting him to hand me them.
Okay, it takes Crood a slight delayed reaction to see what Gribb is doing, but he goes, oh, yes, and hands them to her.
What have you handed Crood? This isn't the right paperwork.
What are you talking about? Of course it is.
That's not a mission briefing. What even is this? And what is it?
Yeah, because obviously you guys don't actually have an approved sort of mission briefing that you can fork over. So what is it that you've handed to Gribbly Crood?
Okay. So what it is, it's one of those where, you do a very quick glance and take it away type bluff, which is kind of a last resort. It's essentially the last page from a kind of a raunchy magazine, and it was kind of all the credits, so people who support the magazine, so just basically a load of text with some text in bold and that kind of thing.
Okay, so Commander the Hacker looks at you and he says, who's your superior at the ICB? I'll get in touch with them and verify it.
What was the name of the officer that got humiliated? That we went to the we had the run-in with and we got the uniform from.
Yeah, the one Crew threw up on.
Who will currently be hopefully not attending, because he'll be off, hopefully.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I'm quite happy for you to say that you've given that name over.
Yeah.
Okay, so Captain the Hacker says, well, if you'll just wait here, I'll attempt to communicate with him and verify your identities. And he steps to one side. You see him put a hand to the side of his helmet, and you can hear him sort of muttering under his breath. You can see in the area you're in now, there's like Commander the Hacker, maybe 4 stormtroopers, 4 of these administrators, and this doctor who's just sort of like giving his report to one of the administrators, not really paying any attention to what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna I'm gonna sort of very loudly sort of tell Crood off for not picking up the right paperwork and just kind of keep the act going for the moment.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's all I had on me. Maybe I lost the rest.
This just... Why do I get you as a partner?
It was very stormy on the way here. Maybe they blew out of a briefcase or something.
Okay, Yaatu, as you're sort of like in your interrogation cell, having been sort of tortured by one of the Imperial droids, the big black spherical interrogation droids, and this doctor who you know to be called Dr. Sanders. As you're sort of like, you're there and you're mulling over what you've found out, and you're trying to ignore the pain from the various sort of minor wounds you've got, you can hear these loud voices from like down the corridor outside your cell, and as you concentrate on them a bit, you could swear that like one of them sounds a little bit like Crood.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the room with me?
Not at this present time.
I suppose I'm like strapped to the table.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think Yaatu thinks that he's actually like hallucinating from some of the compounds that they use, like tooth serums and that sort of thing. So he probably starts laughing like real loud because he thinks he's getting real high.
Okay, so Crood and Gribbly, as you're waiting for Commander the Hacker to verify your identities, you hear this sort of maniacal laughter echoing from one of the cells, this sort of slightly crazed and hysterical sounding laughter.
At that point, I back off, dressing Crood down, because I don't want Yaatu to, blow this.
Okay, after about 10 minutes, Commander the Hacker steps towards the two of you and he says, I'm sorry, but I've been unable to verify your identities. The person I spoke to had no record of sending 2 agents up here to interrogate one of the prisoners.
Wait, what?
That's really strange. We've come a long way.
Indeed, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the area until we can fully verify your identities. At which point...
No, that's fine. We'll head back and sort this out. Sorry to have troubled you. I'll make sure that when we come back, we'll copy you in on communication first, so you don't have to go too far out of your way. Come on, Showdown.
Do we really have to go all the way back? It just seems like a waste.
Well, if you had brought the paperwork...
Yes, true, but targets...
Commander the Hacker gestures to 2 of the stormtroopers and says, Troopers, please escort these junior officers off the Vigilance. At which point they both nod and say, Sir, sir. And they fall in, one on either side of the 2 of you. They have their blasters drawn and in their hands. They're not pointing them at you, but as you've been walking through the ship, you've seen that most stormtroopers have their blasters to hand. Like I say, the whole place is on high alert.
Okay, so we've just got 2 of them on us, right?
That's correct.
All right, we'll wait till we're outside the immediate area there when there's... Hopefully we've got to take them when there's no stormtroopers around us.
Okay, now, as I've said, there's quite a lot of stormtroopers on board this vessel. It is a Star Destroyer, so the chances of you guys like finding anywhere just like by happenstance where there's like no stormtroopers or Imperials of any stripe are fairly small, unless you guys like deliberately try and engineer that somehow. Is that what you want to do, or?
Yeah, we could do the old we just pop to Lou on the way back type thing and just get them to one side.
Yeah, we could try.
Okay, so as you're being led out of the ship by these 2 stormtroopers, like you say, you pull the other, we need to use the conveniences. Since these are just basic generico troopers, I'm not going to ask you to make yet another guile roll. They escort you to effectively a row of cubicles where there are latrines, and they stand outside whilst you use the facilities, the 2 of you.
Okay, so taking a note of exactly where they're standing, can we shoot them through the wall, or is the wall likely too thick?
Well, the walls themselves are quite thick. However, the doors on these cubicles aren't very thick. It's certainly possible you can shoot through them and shoot the stormtroopers. So would both of you like to make an attack roll?
Yeah, sure. So just to clarify, they're literally standing right outside our cubicles.
Yeah, basically they've sort of shown these cubicles. You guys have gone inside, and they're literally like waiting outside, facing the cubicle doors with their rifles across their chests.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I kind of like I aim, and I'm totally focused on this moment, listening to the sounds of Crood, making sure he's got the same thought, because I know he'll be doing it as quietly as me, but we kind of need to communicate, that and fire at the same moment. So I'm waiting for that moment, and I'm just kind of in that zone, listening for the tiniest chink of that weapon coming out the holster.
Okay. So if both of you want to make your attack rolls.
So not entirely sure how that works. Is that just pick a skill that you feel is appropriate?
That's correct.
Okay, I guess focus.
Yep, certainly sounds applicable the way you were describing it. Okay.
Yeah, definitely focus.
I'm just going to make a single defense roll for both of the stormtroopers, effectively grouping them together. It'll just be a toughness roll, because obviously they're not trying to, well, a forceful roll, because effectively they're not trying to evade you. It's just whether their armor can, like, take it, basically. So I'll just make a roll for them.
So because I'm the luckiest pilot this side of the Outer Rim, I'd like to re-roll that incredibly terrible roll of mine, if that's all right.
That's fine, go ahead.
That's better.
Okay, your roll, Crood, is certainly enough to take out your stormtrooper. So describe how he meets his gruesome and latrine-based fate.
Okay, so I'm assuming there's also some basins just outside the cubicles as well.
Indeed.
Quite sort of metallic and square shaped, let's say. So what happens is like a little tiny, almost like a porthole window that's kind of slightly frosty. And I take my gun, obviously cock it, which Gribbly would have heard, and just do it straight through the glass. Gets him in the back of the head, and then he falls onto the corner, like the edge of the basin, essentially cracking possibly him, like his head, but definitely his helmet, and he rolls onto the floor.
And that is exactly what happens. Your shot, Gribbly, is certainly enough to damage your stormtrooper, the one that you shot at. However, it's not going to be enough to kill him, since you've only done like one stress to him. So describe how you shoot this guy, and effectively you've just like dinged him. He's probably knocked off his feet because he's not expecting it, but he is still alive.
Yeah, so I wasn't quite as, deadly assassin here as Crood was. I didn't think to aim for the head, and of course I aimed for the torso, where the armor's thickest and where he can, most take it. So, obviously the toilet door gets blown off and strikes him on the back as well. The bullet, the laser blast passes through and does strike him in the back of the armor, but he just kind of, staggers forward and then has to, he's kind of bent over under this door, so he's flinging the door off as Crood and I hopefully emerge.
Okay, as he sort of like falls down, having taken this shot to the torso, you can see him sort of like struggling to climb to his feet, and he's reaching up for like a comms panel. You can see there's like blood on his hand from where like he's been trying to hold his side. You can see him reaching up towards this comm panel, no doubt to raise the alarm.
Yeah, I'm going to try to shoot the comms panel.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to make you make a roll for that. You shoot the comms panel. There is a shower of sparks as a poof as you hit the control panel. Obviously, the doors have been effectively blown off both of your cubicles now. So, Crood, you can also see this going on. There's this like stormtrooper. He's been trying to reach up for this comms panel, and now he's trying to like grab his weapon that he dropped on the floor when he originally got shot, having seen that the comms panel's blown out. There's no chance he's going to be able to get that.
Okay, so how far away is the gun from me?
It's no more than 8 foot or so away from you. You could easily like cover that distance.
I was going to say, what I'll do is I'll try and thinking, do I pick it up or do I just kick? I think I'm just going to kick it away, actually, if I get to it.
Okay, not a problem. Yeah, you easily kick the gun away from this stormtrooper. He's now pretty much unarmed. He can't really do anything. Because, like you say, you've disarmed him. He's already shot in the torso. He's sort of like lying against the wall of the corridor outside your cubicles.
Yeah, and I hold my gun straight at him, just pausing.
You hear him with a gritted, pained voice from under his helmet. He says, "Whoever you are, you'll never get away with this."
I'm gonna start to remove his helmet if he's submitting like that.
Okay, yeah, you take off his helmet. You see what appears to be effectively a 14-year-old boy wearing the armor.
Crood's quite taken aback by that, just how young he is. Like Crood almost like takes a little step back, and then just says, "You're really young."
Yeah, but Gribbly's a believer, so she's currently lowering her pistol to the back of his head.
Okay, as you're doing that, he looks at you, Crood, and even though he's very young, he has this look of intense hatred on his face, and he starts to say, "I'm a soldier of the Empire."
Oh. He's gone, he's lost.
Yeah, I empty his brain out with laser blast.
His head snaps back and then slumps forward, and he slides down the wall onto the floor, leaving a red trail against the wall.
Crood actually like flops down and like sort of sits down and puts his head in his hands and goes, "Shit."
We need another plan to get Yaatu out.
Yeah. I was hoping he would give in a bit so we could use him, but no.
Or we just take what we came here for, which is a ship, and Yaatu's lost.
Yaatu's what, sorry?
Well, lost. I mean, all of those guards in there know us. We can't wear stormtrooper armor. We could just leave him.
This is tricky. I did see one thing, though. Being somebody who has seen Summer Prison before, there are maintenance chutes dotted around the detention centre.
Every one of 46 stormtroopers is going to recognize us. We can't go back in that detention block.
Can I ask both of you to please make me a focus roll?
Okay.
Okay, as you're having this conversation, Crood and only Crood, you hear like a slight hissing sound from where you sort of like dropped this now dead stormtrooper's helmet on the floor. And as you sort of like lean in a bit closer, you can hear, no doubt on the helmet's internal comm system, a voice saying, "Trooper SN65, we've lost your life signs. Come in, Trooper SN65. We're registering small firearms fire. Are you there, Trooper SN65? Report."
Okay, so I'm going to answer it essentially, and I'm going to make it really sort of scratchy and pretend it's breaking up a lot. And I'm going to say, "Maintenance, gun misfire, damage, comms, life force."
Okay, can you make me a guile roll, please, Crood?
I can try.
Okay, as you give your your Oscar-winning performance, Crood, you hear a control voice on the other end say, "Received and understood, SN65. We'll send a maintenance crew down to your position immediately."
There we go, maintenance crew.
What, you're saying we go in as the maintenance crew?
Not necessarily. However, maintenance crew are probably going to be a lot more compliant to what we want. We could probably send them in order to clear a path for us.
I think we either need to dispatch these bodies or get the hell out of here. I don't understand. I mean, do you think we could come up with a disguise? You're a Rhodia and I'm a Twi'lek.
I know it's a long shot. I really do. But there's just something in me that doesn't want to leave Yaatu behind.
Do Rhodians come in different colours?
Yes. Green, blue, bit of red.
They're humans. They won't pay attention to details. They'll just look at the big picture. We go in as a different colour. They'll think we're different creatures.
Well, yeah. Hello, I got some red dye and applied it already. Look, and I show her again. Oh, hold on. I think Becky's lost connection.
Okay, no problems. We'll give her a minute. Okay, excellent. So, Gribbly, you can see that in preparation for this mission, Crood's already effectively applied like a sort of red pigmentation to himself.
Did he have that on when we did it, or is he's just done it now?
Well, technically it would have been on now. So basically, what happened was I asked your contact to provide me with something, just because people would recognise me before we went on the ship. So at the moment, I've got a kind of tinge of red, but I can wash that off. We're in a bathroom after all.
Yeah. Do you have any more of that?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it will work with your skin, but it's a dye, so...
Well, give it a go. Right, we need to get these stormtroopers out of here. Is there a maintenance hatch we can throw them in?
Well, yeah, probably. Or just, I don't know, a large toilet duct or something.
Well, since you're near a latrine, effectively, you can see there is a waste disposal chute sort of like adjacent to the latrine block that you're in. So when the maintenance droids come along, any sort of biological waste or anything of that nature that they need to remove, it can be sort of dumped down this trash compactor effectively.
Right, I'm going to throw the stormtroopers into that. Put water all over the bathroom like it's had a bad... No, I'll tell you what, how I'll do that. I'll clog up a toilet with tissue and flood it. Now finally I understand why people do that in public restrooms, and I'll use that to wash the blood away on the floor.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And you hoist these dead two stormtroopers into the waste disposal tube. There's a slight sort of banging and thumping sound as they slide down it and disappear from view. And as you said, you've flooded the two cubicles that you were using.
Yeah, that's just to wipe away the sort of blood out, really out in the main part of the bathroom. And right, then I'll start applying red pigment. Get this junior officer uniforms off, and I'll just kind of, Actually, I'll go into another cubicle.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. About 15 minutes later, you hear footsteps coming down the corridor towards your position, and as you look out, sort of like peep out of the cubicle door, you can see what appear to be 4 people wearing some janitorial uniforms. walking down the corridor. As they get near, one of them sort of looks at where all the water's splashed, and he's like, "Oh, it looks like the waste flume's clogged up again. Oh, we're going to need the hydro spanner and a 347 to get it fixed again." "Oh, who's been met?" And he looks at the wall and says, "Oh, what's happened to this comms unit? It's blown out again."
And I'm going to emerge from my cubicle in my underwear and say, "Could you give me some help over here?" Sort of beckoning over one that definitely is wearing a uniform that won't fit on either me or Crood.
Okay, can you make me a guile roll, please? It's not a very difficult one.
Crew's just looking out of the cubicle in like horror. She's doing this.
Okay, as you sort of step out in your underwear and you're back into one of these janitors, one of them sort of like puffs out his chest a little and walks over to you and says, "Yes, of course. What can I help you with, miss?"
Right, and I'm going to very quickly, using all of my very limited strength, toss him into the garbage disposal whilst the others aren't looking, and then scream.
Okay, so if you're going to try and do it without the others spotting you, that will effectively be an attack, but it'll be using your guile, because you're obviously trying to do it on the QT. Whereas if you're just trying to like throw him down and you're not bothered about the others seeing it, it'll be more of a sort of forceful roll. It's entirely down to you.
No, I really want to do it unseen, so I kind of want to just get the first one out the way, so there's less to deal with.
Yeah, no problem at all. So again, it's an attack roll, so if you make your guile attack, and then I'll roll his defense. Okay, I'll just roll for his defense now. Okay, so at the moment we are drawing, so that wouldn't be enough for your attack to succeed. You would gain a temporary boost, but you wouldn't have managed to like throw him down the garbage disposal.
Yeah, okay. So, like, I'm trying to get him into the position to get him by the garbage disposal, and I see the moment that I can do it, but I just haven't got him close enough. And instead I kind of drag him into the cubicle as if I'm about to make out with him and lock the cubicle door, and then I start punching him.
Okay, so since you've got a boost, I'm going to give you the boost of sort of advantageous position, which you've got 1 free invoke of, so effectively you can use that once to get either a +2 or a reroll without having to spend any fate points. Okay. So you start grabbing this guy, ready to like heave him down the garbage disposal chute, but you realise at the last minute, because he's quite a brawny sort of guy, that he's too heavy for you to just heave down this chute. So you sort of alter it to look like, as you say, you're sort of dragging him into this cubicle to make out with him, and then you're planning to beat him up effectively, I presume.
That's the plan, and I'll use that thingy to re-roll.
Okay, so it'll be a forceful roll.
I'm sorry, Yaatu, you're so dead.
I'll roll his defense. Okay, miraculously, as you start sort of like punching this guy, luckily because your punches are so sort of like weak and you're obviously not used to it, and he's quite a big guy, he seems to assume that this is like all part of the whole making out process. And he doesn't make any, he doesn't make any attempts to like raise the alarm. Since you've got a boost, effectively, I'll give you another free boost on advantageous position. So you've got like another one of those. So you sort of pull him in, and you're sort of you've done these like soft punches to his chest, which he seems to be unnervingly enjoying.
Oh, this is so wrong on so many levels. Okay, let's see how he handles a me getting sort of right up high and then sort of climbing up the cubicle and then kind of body slamming shoe first into his face.
Go for it.
Okay, I will put the +2 on that from the advantage.
Okay, I'll roll his defense. Okay, so with that roll, you have done him 1 stress. So you've actually done him some damage now. However, it's not enough to take him out. So whilst all this debacle is going on, Crood, what have you been doing?
Well, like I said, I've kind of been a bit speechless with Gribbly just sort of coming out in her underwear and then taking one of these guys in supposedly to make out with him. So he's just been observing what the others have been doing for the moment, and if he needs to cause distraction, then he would.
Okay, so you're effectively stood outside as Gribbly drags this like brawny guy into the cubicle. You hear like, one of his companions, like one of the three who's still stood outside, he's like, "Oh, for God's sake, Jones, come on, wrap it up. We've got work to do." Then you hear like a murmured voice from inside the cubicle go, "Well, if you wanted a bit rough, I don't mind that. Hey, what do you do?" And you hear like a... At which point, as he starts shouting, his companions obviously start looking a little more alarmed, and one of them sort of hammers on the sort of the doorway of this like new cubicle, going, "Hey, what's going on in there?"
Okay, I don't believe I'm about to say this, and please tell me to shut up if it's not appropriate, but I'm just gonna, "You bad boy, be quiet," and I slap him tenderly on the face.
No, that's absolutely fine. Unfortunately, because you have actually done him some damage, he appears to be sort of trying to disengage from you now with the intent of like getting out of this cubicle. He was fine while it was all just a bit of messing around, but now you've actually like chinned him round the face, and like you say, you've done this sort of, you've actually done him a bit of like serious hurt. He's trying to sort of like disentangle himself from you and get out of the cubicle.
Yeah, but I'm just going to cover it up as if I'm dominatrix him, but at the same time, I'm really going to lay into him.
Okay, make an attack roll.
It seems that, obviously I've become a little bit too distracted by thinking up of ways to roleplay this, and this isn't something Gribbly's comfortable with or normally does, and she's so distracted by trying to think of a thing to do for this roleplay she's just invented, that she just kind of, as she goes to hit him, she's just left herself exposed.
Okay, I'm going to spend a fate point to add +2 to that, so that'll take me up to +1. Gribbly, can you make me a defense roll, please?
Oh my god.
Okay, so you will be taking 4 levels of stress from this. So as you've sort of like punched this guy and he's sort of trying to get out, he basically sort of throws you back against the wall of this cubicle, causing you to like basically smash the back of your head against the wall, and then he sort of like bursts backwards out of the cubicle, shouting in alarm, because obviously he's realised that like all is not as it appeared. Crood, outside, you sort of hear this shout of alarm, a loud thump, and then this brawny guy with sort of like his overall sort of like a little bit in disarray comes hurtling backwards out of this cubicle.
Okay. So how far in has the supervisor, is he, or just the brawny guy's companion, gone back into the toilets?
Well, the other 3 janitors seem to have like backed off. The one who was like hammering on the door has sort of moved over to the brawny guy and is like seeing he's all right. Now the door's open, Crood. you can see that Gribbly's sort of been thrown against the wall, and you can see like a cut on her head where this guy's obviously just like thrown her off him, and she's smacked her head against the back of the wall of the cubicle.
Okay, so Crood is really racking his brains here. He obviously can't take on 3 or 4. Okay. What is actually, what he's going to do, if he can maybe subdue just the one of them if they haven't quite gone back into the room yet, or rejoin the others, then he will do.
Okay, all of the janitors are sort of like within sight of each other. You could subdue one of them, but the others would notice.
Yeah, I wanted to be, stealthily. Okay. All right, I'm going to try and cause distraction if I can. I'm going to just come straight in, perfectly casually, in order with the intention of using the toilets. And I'm still in my uniform, and I will just come in and be like, "Oh, what's going on here? What is this mess?"
One of the janitors looks at you, and in fact, the burly guy who Gribbly was involved in looks at you, and he obviously sees you wearing like a junior officer's uniform. And he says, I'm sorry, sir. There's a crazy woman in that cubicle over there. Can you call one of the guard posts and have some troopers come down, sir? I don't know who she is. Just attack me in the cubicle, sir.
Oh, Gribbly, I'm terribly sorry, gentlemen. She's with me. She has a bit of an addiction problem, and she must have just had some on her when I wasn't looking. It's completely against policy, so please don't spread that, by the way. She needs time and space, so I can take care of her. I've done it a couple of times before. She owes me though. But don't worry, I can take care of it from here.
Okay, can you make me an opposed guile roll against the janitors?
Okay, I'm gonna invoke my aspect. I love to self-indulge, so I would be very understandable about kind of, withdrawal, having attacks like this. So I'd be able to make it sound pretty convincing. So sort of elaborate on her symptoms maybe, or something like that.
Okay, so are you spending a fate point adding a +2 onto your roll? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, the +2.
Sorry, yeah, +2. Okay, that's absolutely fine. That means you've beaten my score. So as you're sort of describing this, and you're going into quite some detail, so you know a lot about sort of withdrawal and stuff like that, so you sound very convincing. The janitor sort of the brawny janitor scratches his chin and looks at you, and he says, well, I suppose, sir, if you're taking care of it, do you need us to help you take her back to your quarters or anything? I assume she's your slave, sir.
Yes, that's right. Maybe I know this may sound a bit strange considering she's a lady, but do you have any overalls or anything like that? Just because she's obviously not in an appropriate state to be walking around. I have no idea where she's put her clothes.
I'm afraid not, sir, and we don't generally carry spare overalls with us as a matter of course.
Do you not have any in a supply room or a locker?
Well, I suppose I could go to one of the supply depots and fetch some, sir. I would need a signed requisition order for it, though.
I'm happy to sign.
He rummages around in their sort of like janitorial cart, effectively, pulls out a data pad and says, well, if you just put your thumbprint on there, sir, it'll verify your rank and assign the appropriate requisition order to you.
Okay. So just to check out of character, is that verification, or is that just, oh yeah, it'll come up with a rank of some kind to assign to my fingerprint?
It sounds to you like it's basically going to check your thumbprint to see that you're who you say you are, and you've got the authority to requisition these supplies, and then they then take that to the depot and say, oh yeah, look, Officer so and so wants to requisition this.
Okay, so what I do is I try and actually take the data pad off him, so I've got a sort of a better grip, and
I'm going to try and save the situation Crood's in, because obviously he can't press it.
No, but what I was intending to do, take it off him and then accidentally drop it into the flooded water.
Well, he's not going to make any attempt to stop you taking it off him, since he assumes that you're just going to press your thumb onto it and happy days. So yeah, he lets you take it off him.
Yeah, I said to him, you have to forgive me, my Rhodian hands aren't as grippy as yours, and then I sort of do a thing and drop it and go, oh, I'm so sorry. Here, let me repay you to replace that, and I start getting out some credits.
He sort of holds up a hand and says, oh no, that's not necessary, sir. Accidents do happen. He says, although now you mention it, we don't see many Rhodian officers on board, sir. Pretty much all the officers I've seen have been well, human, if you don't mind me saying so. I'm sure if you just give me your name, I'll just contact the depot. I'm sure we can't have too many Rhodian officers on board. I'm sure they'll be able to verify who you are.
Yeah, so I give the name that's on my papers, and I also show him the papers, obviously the forged ones.
Okay, so he reaches to his lapel, takes off what appears to be a small cylinder with almost like a microphone on top of it, and he says, yeah, this is technician second class Dan Raw. I've got a and he looks at your sort of ranking insignia on your fake uniform and says, a junior officer, Shodan, a Rhodian officer here who wants to requisition some additional supplies, janitorial uniforms, etc. Can you verify police control? Then he waits for a few moments, looks back at you, Crood, and says, it'll probably take a little while. Unfortunately, they don't give us the good communicators, us just being janitors and that. You see him sort of drumming his fingers on this this microphone comms that he's holding.
I said to him, yes, that's understandable. Let me just go and check on my slave. She's got a little bit quiet.
Right you are, sir. Right you are.
So I head into the cubicle, basically in order to try and get some kind of plan going between us, and I try and whisper as quietly as possible. But obviously I sort of take a look at her and then realise that actually Gribbly's been beaten up quite badly by the sounds of it.
Okay, so at this point, as you head into the cubicle, this is where we're actually going to do our tide change for the evening, because obviously this janitor guy, once he gets through to his control centre, they're going to be like, oh well, we don't have a Rhodian officer with the authority to do this. So what the tide change is going to be is, what is the result of them realising that they've got people posing as officers on board? So since Yaatu's not had much of a chance to start, I'm going to offer him the first chance to come up with a tide change.
Oh boy. I think, because they're here because of the rebels, supposedly, they are going to think that the rebels are attacking, and they are going to go on full alert, battle stations, and essentially everyone starts running all around. The stormtroopers gather in their hangars to be deployed, and pilots running around. Chaos, basically, for the short while that it lasts.
Yeah, that is absolutely fine. So, Crood or Gribbly, would you like to jump in with your suggestions?
We're also thrown in jail, because at least then we get the party back together.
Yay!
Yes, I think with my vote we should go a step further and say not only are we sort of detained and so on, but we are found to be working with Yaatu and therefore are sentenced to an execution.
So the campaign's a little bit shorter than we anticipated.
Yeah, it seems to be going in that way.
I'm not saying it's just going to be a flat-out bang, 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 you know, dramatic scenes, Deus Ex Machina, blah, blah, blah.
Rather than, well, just a suggestion on yours, Jason, and of course entirely up to you, but
Yeah.
Rather than because we're working with Yaatu, but because my character is legitimately ex-rebel, perhaps
Okay.
they have that data.
Okay, yeah, let's go with that.
Okay, guys, so we'll take a 15-minute break. I'll get these posted on the Tides of Change group as a poll. And when we come back in 15 minutes, whichever has got the most votes, that's the one we'll go with. So I'll see you all in 15 minutes, guys.
Key.
Yay!
Okay, so we rejoin the game with the janitors having got through to their command. They've obviously registered the fact that Crood and Gribbly aren't who they say they are. We pick up with Crood and Gribbly having sort of dived into one of these cubicles to discuss their plan. Over to you two.
Okay, yeah, so Crew was going to check on Gribbly in terms of the fact she's quite badly wounded.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, the cat just leapt across me and used me as a springboard. Sorry about that. No, I mean, she's hurt, but she's not really wounded that badly. You know, she's she's bleeding a bit on her head, but actually Gribbly looks furious with Crood, and has even reached for her pistol and is waving it around, and whilst whispering, "You call me by my real name again, and I'll blow your head off. It's time, you fucking idiot."
So I'm kind of holding my hands up as I say, please don't fight, please don't fight. And I just sort of nod profusely and go, "Slave, are you hurt?"
We need to kill these guys, and we need to do it now.
Your conversation is suddenly broken by a loud and all the lights in the corridor that you're into turn a deep red, the colour of blood.
Great, this is the kind of distraction we need to get Yaatu out. Let's get their uniforms and get back in there.
Okay, so I nod, get out my gun, and I just go straight out and start shooting.
Okay, as you're sort of gathering your gun and you're heading out, you hear a loud voice obviously being broadcast on the sort of intership comm network. You hear a slightly imperious voice saying, "This is Control. We have rebel agents on board. Repeat, rebel agents on board. This may be the start of a rebel attack. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. All fighters to tie wing. All stormtroopers to their positions. Repeat, this is not a drill. Scramble all fighters. Repeat, scramble all fighters." And then this klaxon continues to sound. Okay, so you guys are grabbing your guns and busting out there.
Yeah. Crew doesn't quite get the, put two and two together and make the connection. He actually thinks that the rebels happen to be in the area, and this is quite convenient. So yeah, he's just being a happy, itchy trigger finger and just shooting these guys up.
Okay, at this point, I would like to offer Crood and Gribbly, I would like to offer you both a fate point.
Oh.
For a compel, since the alarm has been raised, your position is known. There are a lot of stormtroopers in the area who will be converging on your position. Basically, if you come out sort of like shooting, that you're probably gonna find yourself faced with a wall of stormtroopers who are going to like take you down. But basically, I'm offering you a fate point to concede that they'll be able to incapacitate you without us having to go through all the dice rolling for like 1,000,000 stormtroopers.
Okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay, not a problem. So you guys burst out with your guns and you find there's 3 squadrons of stormtroopers stood outside, all with their guns sort of leveled in your direction. There is a flash of blue stun energy fire from their blasters and everything goes dark. Yaatu, you are in your cell. Obviously, you've heard these klaxons going off. You've heard the announcements. You've heard the alarms. There's a little bit of commotion outside, the sound of blasters. And about 10 minutes later, an unconscious Yaatu and Gribbly are dragged to your cell and pretty much thrown in by some stormtroopers who keep weapons trained on you at all times. However, as Gribbly sort of hits the floor, you hear a groan from the two of them. They're just starting to regain consciousness. One of the stormtroopers says, "Wait a minute, I recognise that one. I'm sure that's a member of the Rebel Alliance. You see him hold up a data pad, looks at the Twi'lek, and then says, "I'll confirm with Command HQ. Keep them locked up here until I get back." At which point the other stormtroopers nod and they lock the door behind you, leaving the three of you in this cell. Gribbly and Crood, you've just started to regain consciousness.
Oh, that never stops hurting.
Did I just hear that trooper say that one of you's in the Alliance?
I think they were talking about you, Gribbly.
But they kicked me out when I killed all those... Oh.
Oh, what?
Nothing.
Spill, Gribbly.
Hardly matters now, does it? I made a mistake, okay? It was a... I mean, there's a lot going on in the control. You know, that's what I used to do. I used to control the fighter squadrons, and well, you know, from on board the Corellius, and well, when you've got lots of squadrons in the air, and I just got them crossed. You know, 7s and 4s. For some reason, I sometimes get them muddled, and I sent an unarmed, unfueled, damaged squadron into combat and sent the fresh squadron off to resupply. But it was an innocent mistake. Anyway, that's why I'm here with you lives in this prison cell and not fighting the good fight right now. Thanks.
Okay, so Yaatu, what do you make of this slightly bewildering confession?
I think I just look confused for a large part of it, and then I go, wait, so are you or are you not?
Well, I was. I got dismissed. My father would be so ashamed if he was still alive. My mother hates me. And the nearest thing I have to family or friends now is a Rodian and a... Yeah, I never even remember what you are, Yaatu. Gosh, an M something, and you're not even a Mandalorian.
Miriam, no.
Yeah, that.
So you went freelance?
Well, I still believe in the rebel cause. Now look, I know that the Emperor is on board this ship right now.
The what?
I don't know how we're going to do it. I heard 2 stormtroopers talking about... Well, a stormtrooper talking about it to a guard. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we have to destroy this ship. Somehow we have to destroy it. We've got to get out.
John, I presume there's guards in the room with us or outside.
They're not in the room, they are outside though.
Okay, good. How do you feel about me using my stunt to produce some equipment right now?
I don't have any objections to it per se.
Okay. Well, it's not going to be anything massive because obviously they would have searched me.
Well, there's always pulling a wall panel off. You'd be surprised what electronics you can find back here.
Yeah, and it's also another potential idea, because at this point I'm kind of metagaming the shit out of this, but I have a lot of friends. I can always just ping a contact in order to be there on the outside and do something for me.
Oh, good point. Because once per session, I can always find a rebel contact. Maybe there is another rebel in this prison block.
What I'll suggest as a potential alternative to that, 'cause it's not likely you'll find like another rebel who can be useful in this prison block. However, maybe it's possible that when you're being transported to this prison colony, maybe you could get a contact to someone in the rebels who like owes you a favour to maybe come and like sort of perform some sort of rescue, or at least give you a chance to escape.
What do you think?
I think we've got to try. The price is so great that if we die trying, then, well, we die trying.
Okay, so since we're getting on a bit, guys, what I'd like to do here is essentially as like an epilogue to like finish off this session is get you guys to effectively get you guys to do the setup for the next session. Now, obviously, you guys, Gribbly has been identified as a member of the Rebel Alliance, so you are going to be shipped off to a penal colony aboard a prison vessel. You won't be taken there in the Star Destroyer. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is come up with a sort of epilogue with you guys being put onto the prison vessel, and then effectively do the setup for the next session where this rebel contact of Gribbly's is somehow going to provide you with maybe a small chance of escaping. So between the three of you, I don't know which one of you wants to go first. If you want to do that setup, feel free.
What if it's not us being rescued, but if there actually was a rebel operation about to happen to this Star Destroyer, and we, the party, just fucked it up by alerting...
Well, hold on a minute. There was that rather rich bloke in number 59. Maybe he's a spy for the rebels, a double agent. Maybe they're rescuing him.
Yeah, maybe they were already going to do that, and like they were going to do a sort of assault with X-wings into the main hangar bay or something crazy, and then all of a sudden the TIE fighters launched because of us, and it's all going terribly, terribly wrong, and there's explosions everywhere, and chaos and confusion, and rebels getting killed left, right, and center. But just a handful of what should have been a lot of rebels arrive in the prison, and there's our opportunity to get guns and get out in the chaos.
Okay, so I don't know if you... Okay, so if you guys want to pick one of you to sort of like describe that in a narrative style, because like I say, we're getting on a bit. So if one of you wants to describe the setup and sort of do like a little narrative close to this session, setting us up for the next one, feel free.
I can do it, although I think are you volunteering for you? Oh yeah, that's the point. Yeah, he hasn't had much limelight, so yeah, let's give it to him.
Well, you guys made up the plan, but so am I correct in that we are all being transported onto a prison barge?
Indeed. Gribbly has been identified as a member of the Rebel Alliance, despite her protestations to the fact that she's like an ex-member of the Rebel Alliance. Obviously, that doesn't really matter to the Empire, and as known associates of a Rebel agent, the two of you will also be herded onto the prison barge, this small sort of prison vessel that they'll be planning to basically ship you out on and take you to a specialised penal colony where you can be interrogated further and you can't cause any further harm to the Empire.
Right. And Gribbly and Crood, you were thinking that our escape attempt would happen while still on calls or during transit?
Me, I mean, I'd be happy enough if it was still on the Star Destroyer. I don't mind. It's entirely up to you.
I think it would be good for the focus, considering I suggested about this other prisoner that they're coming to rescue. So maybe we could deviate a little bit, but
Okay.
probably be better to keep within the grounds of the Star Destroyer.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's a narrative. You guys have got a bit of a license to sort of take a few liberties with it, so feel free.
Yeah. Okay. So the actual rebel mission on board the Vigilance still manages to hide their position for another 15 minutes, enough for all the fighters to launch, and actually a couple of groups of stormtroopers to deploy on calls, the surface. And after all that's done, they start marching out the prisoners from the cell blocks, people filing away while being guarded by stormtroopers with stun batons and, well, blasters set to stun. And that's when the rebels strike. I think a fair few of them dropping down from like ventilation shafts right into the middle of the prison prisoner group that's being marched down the hangar to this barge ship waiting there with officers in gray uniforms. And it's incredible chaos out there. People are scrambling for their weapons. The rebels are desperate. They don't necessarily have an exit strategy right now. I think theirs is probably the same as ours, as they grab this supposedly their extraction target, losing a fair few members of their group to blaster fire and batons from the stormtroopers. But in the chaos, our three heroes, they're in a bad way, having, been roughed up a bit before the transport. And, I think we have one blaster between the three of us, and we are running into the prison barge itself, being flanked by several of our prisoner compatriots in, various stages of hurt. And we are facing down the couple of unarmed Imperial pilots that were just standing there waiting for their load to get on and then pilot away. But now they're facing down this rebel gang of manacles and one blaster.
Okay, so I'm going to interject there. As Yaatu has said, the three of you are being marched onto this prison barge, and that is when the rebels make their strike. You can hear the screaming of TIE fighters and heavy blaster fire outside as the rebels, attempting to retrieve their highly placed agent and using all of the sort of weapons they managed to garner at their hidden factory, decide that now's the time to launch their assault. Perhaps, as Gribbly said, they'd also received word from their spies that the Emperor was somehow involved with this Star Destroyer. So as the attack is launched, the three of you find yourself on this small prison ship with a gaggle of other prisoners and a fairly light stormtrooper guards. It's most of them have obviously been called away to repel the rebel attack, and it's at this point that some of the other prisoners decide to make a break for it, and pretty much an all-out riot breaks out with the prisoners on board this small vessel attacking the few stormtroopers and the few pilots that remained. What do you guys do as this riot breaks out between your fellow prisoners and this small amount of stormtroopers?
If the others agree, leave them to it.
Full pelt towards the nearest ship.
Well, you're pretty much on a small prison ship anyway, and the riots effectively broke out on that small prison ship.
Right.
The only thing that's really standing between you guys and taking control of this prison ship is a handful of stormtroopers and a couple of pilots.
Fantastic.
This is an Imperial ship. This is what we needed.
Yeah. Is there some kind of emergency escape hatch that we could flush these guys out of?
There's an airlock.
Okay. 2 questions. How high up are we, and what kind of speed are we going at?
Okay, you're still currently docked with the Star Destroyer, so you're not moving at the
Right.
moment.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we were already sort of setting off. Okay.
Basically, they were just getting ready to start setting off, and that's when like all the other prisoners have started rioting, and just this massive sort of like melee between. You can see the stormtroopers are getting pulled down by the sort of dozen or so other prisoners that are on board.
I'm going to go for the stormtrooper's gun.
Okay, yeah, like I say, we're not going to do all of the dice rolls for this, so Gribbly, describe what happens as you go for the guns.
So as the stormtrooper is sort of beaten down by a load of unarmed prisoners, sort of whacking the stormtrooper with their chains and so forth, I kind of go into the melee, but I ignore the trooper himself and go for the gun that he's sort of trying to shoot, but I get my hand sort of around the handle and rip it out of his hands whilst he's trying to defend himself from the weight of people under him. And then with the gun in my hands, I head towards the cockpit.
Okay, as you head towards the cockpit, Gribbly, the door to the cockpit flies open and a large Nortolan, one of the other prisoners, sort of comes out, and he's like holding one of the struggling pilots above his head. As he sort of like steps past you, almost without looking at you, he just hurls this pilot like out through the open door of the prison ship. You see him like thud and sort of slide along the corridor into the Star Destroyer. You can see the other pilot who's there is obviously trying to make a break for it and trying to like escape as he's seen his fellow thrown by this huge Nortolan.
Come on, Crood. You've got a ship to fly. Yaatu, get the door shut.
So, Crood's not saying anything. He's just sort of looking into the cockpit through the open door, and it's just kind of sinking in, and he just creates this huge, almost manic smile before rubbing his hands together and rushing in. Oh, bit clinical for me, but it'll do. I'm sure I can spruce it up.
Okay, as you sort of climb into the cockpit, a rather sort of grumpy looking Doug, who Yaatu you recognise as the same fellow you were brought on board with, sort of jumps into the co-pilot seat, looks at you, Crood, and he's like, "Hey, can you fly this thing?"
Yeah, quite probably. Just bear with me. I've never really flown anything like this before.
Well, what are you waiting for? Get us out of here as soon as they get their acts together.
Yeah, all right. I'd rather not make us crash as soon as we're taking off.
Hey, don't worry. This is the best pilot in the galaxy, and I'm your astronav. Yaatu, get the door shut behind us. Lock us in here with you.
Yeah. So well, we were tethered, I suppose, to the destroyer. So there's not really a ramp, but yeah, I'm closing the access corridor.
Yeah, not a problem.
I kind of meant the pilot cabin, but okay.
Well, yeah.
Like, be in the pilot cabin with the door shut.
Well, yeah, Yaatu misinterprets that and maybe closes it with him outside.
Damn it, not again. I bang on the door, get in here!
So I'm back there fighting with some of the other prisoners.
Okay, so I open the door, I'm like, Yaatu!
The door slides open, Gribbly, and you can see the sort of the 3 stormtroopers who were in the prison vessel have sort of, they're like backed up to like the door that was attached to the Star Destroyer. You see the prisoners are pretty much like laying into it. A couple of the prisoners have gone down due to like blaster fire from the stormtroopers, but gradually the troopers are just getting overwhelmed by sheer numbers. You can see like Yaatu's like wading in as well, like putting the boot in.
Yes, not again, not again.
I'm just ignoring everybody at this point, getting back into the zone, and I just start taking off and say, Gribbly, come on, get me some coordinates up.
Right, I'm on it. Hey, Doug guy, what's your? I don't know your name. Could you get our friend there, Yaatu, the Miralanan? We kind of need him in the cockpit. We'll need him in a minute. You'll see why.
Okay, the Doug presses the button to open the door to the cockpit sort of more fully. He leans out, and the Doug leans out from the pilot station and shouts in a loud voice. Yaatu, you hear the familiar voice of the Doug say, "Hey, Miralanan, they need you in the cockpit."
So I look back and get my face just smashed in with the butt of a blaster rifle from its troubles. Yeah, I stagger to the cockpit door, just like blood seeping from my nose and my cheeks all cut up. Yeah. Why aren't we flying yet?
We're on it. Get in here, seal that door, make sure it's airtight. Let's get airborne and keep the outer doors open.
So I get in the cockpit, slam the door shut, and there's just collapse next to the door. Just like, whoa, and my eyes are getting a bit unfocused from all the beating I took.
Okay, as you close the door, the last thing you see before it shuts is one of the stormtroopers like opening the door back into the Star Destroyer, and the three of them sort of like backing out back into the Star Destroyer, obviously aware that they're being overwhelmed by these prisoners. As you watch the last one out, this huge Nortolan just like punches him full bore in the helmet, sending him like staggering backwards, and then the Nortolan like slaps the controls and shuts the door, meaning that the only people left on board this prison ship now are the three of you and 10 of your fellow prisoners.
So at this point, I'm assuming I'll be taking off.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. The controls are fairly simple. You push forward on the throttle. There's a whine from the engines, and this prison ship, it's not the fastest ship in the cosmos, but it starts to move away from the Star Destroyer. As you're looking out through the cockpit window, you can see what appear to be X-Wings and TIE fighters sort of filling the air around you. There are explosions and smoke everywhere as there's dogfights taking place all around you. You see turbo laser fire from the Star Destroyer flashing out, although they appear to be concentrating more on the rebels than yourselves at the moment.
Oh wow, looks like there was an attack.
That's Charlie's squadron. Oh, get us out of here.
Okay, are they really good at shooting?
Well, if they see me, they might become really good.
Oh, I see. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, full throttle, etc., etc.
Okay, as you push forward on the throttle, you hear a voice come over the comms, and you recognise it as Charlie himself, Gribbly. You hear a voice saying, "This is Amber Leader. We're taking heavy fire. We can't take much more of this. We're going to have to ditch. This Amber Leader. We're going down. Repeat, we're going down."
Maybe not.
Oh, what can we do for them?
I thought you just said you wanted to avoid them.
I don't know what to do.
This is Amber Leader to all rebel flights. Break and engage. May the force be with us all.
I just quite nonchalantly do a little salute, not really caring much, and just carry on up into the clouds.
Okay, and as you soar away, the last thing you see as you go through this cloud layer, Gribbly, as you're sort of like looking out of one of the viewports on the side of this prison ship, you see the remnants of one of the Amber Squadron's X-Wings, flames licking out of the back of it and a thick black smoke pouring out of it. It sort of spirals downwards towards the cityscape below. And then this white fluffy cloud layer engulfs your vessel, and all you can see are like flashes through the clouds of the vicious fighting breaking out down below. And unless anyone has any dramatic last words, that is where we will fade to black on this session.
Ooh. My god, we actually escaped. Hooray.
Perhaps the last action, just as we hit vacuum, of opening up the outer doors to suck out the other prisoners. And then I'll turn to Crood and Yaatu and be like, well, we don't want to have criminals on board.
I was actually kind of expecting you to do that, so I just sort of smiled to myself, and then suddenly I frown and then realise, oh shit, my loft cat.
I would like to propose at those words, a stray turbo laser hits like one of our engines and sets it on fire. Maybe just as we jump.
That is absolutely fine. Me, there's a poof. It catches one of your side engines. You feel a rattle run through the ship, Crood, as you can see these like bodies spiraling out of the back of the ship, basically leaving just you three and the Doug, who's obviously still in the cockpit, on board the ship. The ship wobbles. You see flames licking out of the starboard engine. What do you do, Crew? The last action of the session's down to you.
Okay, I don't know the technical terms for this, but you know that bit in the pod racing where Anakin's one of the sort of sides is on fire and this like billowing flame coming out. I'll make the technical terms. I'm going to activate the thruster compressors in order to close that bit off, and I say to the dog, make yourself useful, go and find some kind of fire extinguisher and put it out.
He looks at you and he says, we haven't got time for that, and then he leans forward and he just hits the hyperspace button.
Fair enough.
There's a few moments of like vibration as runs through the ship, and then as you disappear into hyperspace. And that is where we end this evening's session. I hope that was okay for all of you.
Thank you very much.
It was, yes, thank you.
Yeah, that was good.
Obviously, I'm happy to chat for a bit afterwards, but for now, I'm going to end the broadcast.